Do you think you need to be a heroic cop to take on the cartels? Think again. Sometimes, the bravest fighters emerge from the most unexpected places. Join us as we dig into gripping stories about average individuals, from a small village to the enduring legacy of a cultural icon, taking on cartel behemoths. We'll hear tales of apologies, perseverance, and surprising heroes who turned the tables on criminal organizations like the fearsome Zetas and Knights Templar Cartel. Demonstrating that even the most powerful criminals can be brought to their knees by the humble and brave. Manuel Fidel Torres. Manuel Fidel Torres Felix was born in the little village of Cosala, Sinaloa, Mexico, and came from poor circumstances before becoming involved in one of the world's most prominent drug gangs. When he was in his 30s, he joined the Sinaloa Cartel, a formidable organization that had grown from a group of farming families to a major force in worldwide drug trafficking. Manuel's older brother, Javier Torres Felix, was already well established within the cartel, serving under Juan Manuel Salcido Zeta, also known as El Cochiloco. After Salcido passed away, Javier began working closely with Ismael El Mayo Zambada, one of the cartel's most violent and powerful leaders, who is still at large today. The Torres brothers' engagement with the cartel strengthened their ties to its activities and introduced them to the brutal world of narcotics trafficking. Ramon Arellano Felix, the Tijuana cartel's head, attempted a hit on the Torres brothers in 2001. Although the plot failed, the gunmen continued their brutality in the brothers' hometown of Cosala, taking the lives of 12 innocent people. This tragedy only fueled the Torres family's determination. Following Javier's arrest in 2004, Manuel took over as El Mayo's right-hand man and collaborated with Ivan Archivaldo Guzman, son of the notorious Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Manuel eventually became in charge of transporting massive quantities of narcotics from South America to the United States. Manuel, nicknamed LM1, was notorious for his cold-bloodedness and violent tendencies. His strong affiliation with Alfredo Beltran Leyva, a key figure in the cartel, made him a major target after Alfredo was caught in 2008. The Beltran Leyva brothers blamed El Chapo for the arrest and split from the Sinaloa cartel, founding their own organization and sparking a bitter rivalry between the two organizations. On 18 April 2008, a horrific attack on the Torres family killed Manuel's son, Atanasio Torres Acosta, and injured his sister-in-law, Sandra Rivas Heredia, and his 4-year-old daughter, Alondra, who lost an arm. This incident enraged Manuel, prompting him to launch a violent campaign in retaliation. Months after the attack, 2 men were discovered dead near where Atanasio was taken out, with a message stating they were hitmen for Arturo Beltran Leyva. Over the next few weeks, scores more bodies were uncovered as victims of Manuel's wrath. Manuel Fidel Torres Felix's life of crime and retribution ended on 13 October 2012 in a gunfight with Mexican security agents. His story is a sobering reminder of the ruthless world of cartel warfare, where personal vendettas drive cycles of violence and retaliation. Alejo Garza Tamez. Alejo Garza Tamez, commonly known as Don Alejo, was a Mexican businessman and rancher whose famous fight against the Los Zetas gang made him a symbol of bravery and defiance. Alejo was born in 1993 in Allende, Nuevo León, near Monterrey, into a family with a long history in the timber sector. He became a trusted figure in his community, respected for his word and integrity. Beyond his professional activities, Alejo's primary interest was the vast outdoors. From a young age, he was an ardent hunter and fisherman, improving his marksmanship and acquiring an excellent rifle collection. His passion for hunting gave him a legendary reputation, with friends and neighbors praising his skills in the wild. On 13 November 2010, Alejo got a terrifying demand from the Los Zetas cartel: surrender his property within 24 hours or suffer the consequences. Rather than submit, Alejo collected his farm laborers and instructed them to take the day off. He then armed himself with firearms from his personal collection and strategically placed them at the doors and windows of his home, ready to defend his property. The following morning, the cartel's SUVs arrived at Alejo's ranch. When the gunman fired a warning shot, Alejo reacted with gunfire, setting off a ferocious struggle. Despite being vastly outnumbered and outgunned, Alejo managed to take out 4 invaders and injure 2 more before retiring to his farmhouse. When the cartel heard Mexican Marines approaching, they fled, intimidated by Alejo's persistent resistance. When the Marines arrived, they discovered Alejo's house covered with gunshot holes and grenade fragments. Inside, they located Alejo's lifeless body, who had died of 2 bullet wounds. His strategic defense, complete with firearms and shell casings at every window and entrance, demonstrated his willingness to meet the assailants alone. Alejo Garza Tamez's stand against the cartel became legendary, representing unwavering heroism and determination. His lone defiance against overwhelming circumstances proved his steadfast determination to safeguard what was rightfully his. Alejo's reputation increased as word spread of his valiant battle against oppression, motivating others to protect their homes with courage and creativity. Gulf Cartel Apology. Apologies are uncommon in the secretive world of Mexican drug gangs. These organizations are notorious for their brutality and lack of remorse. However, an event involving the Gulf Cartel took an unexpected turn when they offered a public apology for the mistaken capture and killing of American visitors. This surprising move revealed the chaotic and frequently unpredictable nature of cartel activities, as well as the intricate dynamics that exist within these criminal groups. The Gulf Cartel, one of Mexico's oldest and most powerful drug trafficking gangs, has a lengthy history of bloodshed and criminal activity. Their power spans huge territories, and they have engaged in countless violent clashes with rival cartels and police enforcement organizations. In this context, a tragic and widely reported incident occurred. The ordeal began when a group of American visitors, unknowing of the dangers that awaited them in the region, found themselves in the wrong place and time. They were falsely identified as members of an opposing faction while going into Gulf Cartel-controlled territory. Acting on erroneous intelligence, the cartel's enforcers intercepted the visitors' vehicle and kidnapped them. What ensued was a nightmare for the unprepared Americans. The kidnapped tourists were transported to an isolated area and subjected to severe questioning. The cartel members were confident they had apprehended rival operatives and showed no mercy. The incident gradually escalated, and tragically, the tourists were slain. Only after the cartel understood their terrible blunder did the gravity of the situation become clear. News of the incident aroused fury on both sides of the border. The United States sought justice, and the Mexican government was under enormous pressure to act. In an unexpected gesture, the Gulf Cartel offered a public apology for the incident. They claimed that the kidnappings and deaths were the result of rogue members operating without authority. The cartel apologized for the unfortunate loss of innocent lives and promised to hold those involved accountable. The cartel's apology, while rare, was viewed as a strategic move. It was an attempt to reduce the intensive scrutiny and any backlash that could jeopardize their operations. The Gulf Cartel attempted to separate its leadership from the conduct of its foot troops by blaming renegade members within its ranks, framing the episode as an unfortunate diversion from usual protocols. For many, the apology posed more questions than it addressed. How could such a well-organized cartel make such a disastrous mistake? Was the apology genuine, or was it a deliberate attempt to salvage face? These questions highlighted the intricacies and internal differences that exist among cartel organizations. Despite their outward shows of authority and control, these organizations are frequently plagued by infighting and rogue factions pursuing their own goals. The Gulf Cartel's apologies also highlighted the widespread bloodshed and instability in cartel-controlled areas. It highlighted the hazards that ordinary inhabitants and visitors suffer when caught in the crossfire of these illegal organizations. The unfortunate destiny of the American tourists was a striking reminder of the human cost of Mexico's ongoing drug battle. Following the apologies, Mexican officials escalated their attempts to apprehend individuals guilty of the killings. Several arrests were made, and the investigation into the incident is ongoing. The United States government also worked with Mexican law enforcement to ensure justice was served. Hipólito Mora. Hipólito Mora, a lowly lime farmer, rose to prominence as a leader in Mexico's grassroots change movement. It all started in 2013, when he and José Manuel Mireles Valverde, a doctor-turned-paramilitary leader, instigated a major insurrection in Michoacán, one of Mexico's most turbulent states. Their purpose was to help regular residents resist the repressive grasp of the Knights Templar Cartel, a criminal group known for a variety of crimes such as land theft, kidnapping, and extortion. The cartel's ruthless government included fees on vital products such as livestock and food, as well as punishment for anyone who tried to oppose their dictates. Mora and Mireles instilled optimism and drive in the people, demonstrating that collective action could fight the cartel's authority and restore their independence. The foundations of this movement sprang from the populace's strong sense of disenfranchisement under the cartel's harsh reign. Enrique Peña Nieto, Mexico's then president, took a different approach to dealing with the cartels than his predecessor, Felipe Calderon, who had chosen direct military conflict. Peña Nieto stressed job creation and social programs to discourage young people from joining gangs, thus supporting Mora's cause. Mora revealed that they reached an agreement with the government. In exchange for concealing their weapons, the government would take action against cartel leaders hiding in the highlands. This accord underlined the mutually beneficial link between the self-defense movement and the government's efforts to counter cartel influence. Despite opposition from the government, Mora led his force through difficult conditions, including a cartel raid to retrieve a prisoner that resulted in multiple losses. Nonetheless, their efforts were successful, and the prisoner was eventually released following a difficult hostage exchange. Tragically, Mora's personal interest in the conflict became tragically clear when his own son was killed by cartel violence in 2014. This loss strengthened his resolve while simultaneously heightening his sense of vulnerability as he anticipated his possible death. Despite fighting the cartel for months without much help, Mora's squad eventually got support from Mexican forces, resulting in the cartel's expulsion from Michoacán between 2013 and 2014. Following the cartel's departure, Mora remained in La Ruana, determined to rebuild and protect his town. However, his optimism was tempered by the sobering truth that many vigilante groups, including his own, had been infiltrated by the cartels, resulting in a revival of gang activity. This bleak trend culminated in Mora's terrible death on 29 June 2023, when he was ambushed and killed with 3 of his bodyguards in La Ruana. Unidentified gunmen stopped their vehicles, fired fire, and set fire to Mora's vehicle. Despite his premature demise, Hipólito Mora left a lasting impression on his community. His unwavering integrity and courageous leadership earned him widespread respect, as evidenced by the words of Reverend Gregorio Lopez, a Catholic priest who participated in the self-defense movement. He was a man who could not be corrupted, a natural leader, an authentic voice. Mora's legacy lives on as a testament to his commitment to the welfare of his community and his brave stand against criminal oppression. People of Texcala. The little community of Texcala, located in the green hills of Michoacán, Mexico, is not often associated with heroic tales of resistance. Nonetheless, the inhabitants of Texcala have left their mark on Mexico's ongoing war against cartel violence. Their story is one of collective bravery and unwavering defiance against the legendary La Familia Michoacana cartel, which is known for its brutal tactics and iron-fisted grip over the territory. It all started when La Familia Michoacana emboldened by their reign of terror, attempted to expand their territory into Texcala. The cartel's tactics were ruthless but effective. They demanded protection money from local citizens and businesses, threatening murder or death. Many towns and villages had succumbed to such extortion, but Texcala's citizens took a different approach. They chose to resist. The locals, primarily farmers and laborers, were fully aware of the deadly path they were about to take. They'd heard the horrible stories of those who ventured to resist the cartel and met their grisly ends. However, the collective spirit of Texcala was distinct. They were united by a feeling of community and justice, and vowed not to give in to the cartel's demands. The conflict erupted when a squad of La Familia Michoacana enforcers arrived in Texcala to collect their tax. The locals, armed with just farming equipment and a few hunting guns, confronted them front-on. The resulting battle was violent and chaotic. The cartel members, armed with automatic rifles, were taken aback by the ferocious resistance they faced. What they believed to be a simple collection evolved into a violent battle. Despite being outgunned, the peasants fought with tenacity, driven by despair and desire. They had resolved that they would sooner die protecting their houses than live under the cartel's rule. The sounds of gunfire and screaming resonated throughout the village as both sides sustained losses. However, the cartel members eventually retreated, unable to shatter the peasants' spirit. The conflict left Texcala scarred but tenacious. The community had paid a high price. 3 individuals had died and many others had been injured. However, their stand against La Familia Michoacana became a symbol of defiance and bravery. News of their disobedience spread throughout the region, prompting other towns to take action against cartel oppression. In the days that followed, Texcala strengthened its defenses and solicited assistance from surrounding villages. They set up watch groups and patrols to keep track of any potential cartel retaliation. The local authorities, recognizing the village's valiant stand, also supplied some assistance, albeit limited. Pedro Infante. Pedro Infante, a name linked with Mexican cinema and music, represents the rags-to-riches story that has captivated people for years. Born into humble circumstances, Infante's climb to stardom and enduring legacy demonstrates the potential for unexpected champions in the fight against social difficulties such as drug cartel dominance. Pedro Infante Cruz was born on 18 November 1917 in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, a place that later became notorious for its links to powerful drug cartels. His early existence was characterized by poverty and struggle. The Infante family migrated frequently in quest of better prospects, as was usual in Mexico at the time. Despite these difficulties, young Pedro maintained hopes for a better life, seeking consolation and inspiration in music and performance. Infante's debut in the entertainment sector was far from glamorous. He began by performing in small neighborhood settings, usually for little or no money. His skill was apparent. With a strong baritone voice and natural charisma, he rapidly gained attention. His success came when he relocated to Mexico City, the hub of the country's thriving film and music industry. In the capital, Infante's career took off. He secured a contract with Discos Peerless, a major record label, and began recording songs that would quickly become popular. His transfer to the silver screen was similarly successful. Infante made his film debut in 1939, and during the next 2 decades, he appeared in over 60 films, becoming one of Mexico's most popular actors. His portrayals frequently portrayed him as the ideal Mexican macho, a hardworking, respectable man of the people who resonated strongly with audiences. Infante's accomplishment was both a personal victory and a societal phenomenon. He became a source of hope and inspiration for millions of Mexicans. His compositions, Amorcito Corazón and Cien Años, as well as films Titzoc and Pepe el Toro, exemplified Mexican culture and tenacity. Infante's persona represented the notion that anyone, regardless of background, might achieve greatness through skill, hard work, and persistence. This story of rising from low origins to amazing accomplishment is particularly relevant in light of Mexico's current challenges with cartel violence. Individuals in drug cartel-controlled areas frequently confront considerable impediments to education, work, and personal progress. The cartels take advantage of these vulnerabilities, attracting young people with the promise of quick money and a sense of belonging. However, Infante's account provides a compelling counter-narrative. It emphasizes the ability of individuals to overcome adversity and make great contributions to society. Infante's legacy shows the idea that heroes can arise from the most unexpected places, challenging the established quo and encouraging others to pursue their aspirations despite insurmountable difficulties. Felipe Calderon. Felipe Calderon, Mexico's 56th president, is a person whose tenure is inextricably linked to the country's tough anti-drug cartel policies. Calderon was elected in 2006, and his administration marked a significant shift in Mexico's strategy to dealing with drug trafficking organizations' growing dominance and violence. His decision to send military forces to confront the cartels has had long-term consequences for both national security and public opinion. Calderon inherited a country plagued by drug-related violence. The cartels had expanded in power, bolstered by their huge riches and armament. They operated with virtual impunity, undermining state authority and frightening populations. Faced with this catastrophic situation, Calderon took a daring and controversial step early in his presidency. He declared war on the cartels. The war on drugs was distinguished by the widespread use of military force. Calderon sent tens of thousands of troops to the areas most impacted by cartel violence. The goal was easy, but risky: dismantle the cartels by apprehending or executing their leaders, interrupting their operations, and restoring law and order. The military, with its superior weapons and training, was viewed as the most effective way to tackle the heavily armed cartel members. The early outcomes of this military strategy were mixed. High-profile operations resulted in the detention or death of several cartel leaders. These accomplishments were widely regarded as significant achievements in the fight against organized crime. However, the technique had serious and unforeseen repercussions. The power vacuum created by the elimination of cartel leaders frequently resulted in violent turf wars as rival factions competed for dominance. This surge in violence resulted in a significant increase in homicides and human rights violations, which impacted innocent citizens caught in the crossfire. Critics of Calderon's approach said that his reliance on military force aggravated rather than contained the violence. The cartels retaliated brutally, attacking not only rival gangs, but also law enforcement and military personnel. The fighting swept across the country, changing formerly calm areas into battlegrounds. Despite these problems, Calderon maintained his opinion that a firm posture was required to retake the country from the cartel's hold. Enrique Peña Nieto, who succeeded Calderon in 2012, chose a different approach compared to his predecessor's militarized agenda. Peña Nieto's administration aimed to address the underlying causes of cartel violence through economic and social initiatives. His emphasis was on job development, education, and social welfare measures that offered alternatives to the wealthy but dangerous drug trade. Peña Nieto's approach aimed to strengthen institutions and improve public security through judicial reforms and enhanced police training. By addressing socioeconomic inequities and increasing chances for legitimate work, his administration intended to lessen the attraction of cartel involvement for vulnerable people. This strategy aimed to develop a more durable and less confrontational solution to the drug problem. Peña Nieto's programs were well-intentioned, but had severe obstacles in implementation. Cartel operations are highly entrenched, and extensive corruption within law enforcement and political institutions makes it difficult to effect substantial reform. Furthermore, the immediate impact of job creation and social initiatives was less noticeable than the high-profile military actions during Calderon's time. Calderon and Peña Nieto's different approaches show the challenges of handling Mexico's cartel situation. Calderon's governorship emphasized the significance of taking decisive action and using force when dealing with heavily equipped criminal organizations. However, it also demonstrated the limitations and potential consequences of a solely militaristic strategy. Peña Nieto's emphasis on socio-economic solutions highlighted the importance of treating root causes, yet improvements were delayed and incremental. Mexican military. At the U.S. border. The parched, sun-baked landscape near the U.S.-Mexico border is frequently the site of brutal clashes between Mexican armed personnel and powerful drug cartels. Among these, one specific clash stands out, demonstrating the Mexican troops' resilience and power. This story, a violent clash between cartel members and soldiers, proves not only the military's power, but also the cartel's miscalculation of their own capabilities. In the sandy borderlands, the Mexican government has long fought to maintain authority in the face of cartel violence. These locations are crucial conduits for drug trafficking operations, and cartels, who are fiercely protective of their lucrative corridors, are frequently well-armed and combat-ready. However, the Mexican military, with its discipline and training, has demonstrated that it is a force to be reckoned with. The event began with intelligence inputs indicating a big cartel movement near the border. A caravan of heavily armed cartel members was sighted hauling a major shipment bound for the United States. Acting on this intelligence, the Mexican military deployed a detachment to intercept and disrupt the cartel's operations. The soldiers, who had been trained for such high-stakes situations, were ready for a frontal engagement. As the cartel convoy moved across the mountainous terrain, they were confident in their ability to defeat any opposition. Armed with automatic guns, grenades, and armored trucks, they had previously carried out similar operations with little resistance. However, this time, they encountered an opposition who was equally motivated and far better equipped than they had anticipated. The conflict began when a military squad attacked the convoy at a strategic choke point. The opening exchange of gunfire was severe, and both sides suffered casualties. When the cartel members realized they were up against a formidable opponent, they attempted to regroup and launch a counterattack. However, the Mexican soldiers retained an advantage thanks to their training and superior tactics. The soldiers used a combination of ground and air support to outmaneuver the cartel fighters. Helicopters provided overhead reconnaissance and weaponry, while ground soldiers launched coordinated attacks. The cartel, accustomed to dealing with less organized opposition, was overwhelmed by the precision and ferocity of the military attack. Despite their numerical superiority, the cartel members were compelled to take defensive positions. The battle lasted for several hours, with the soldiers gradually demolishing the cartel's barriers. The military demonstrated its resilience and strategic planning by neutralizing critical cartel sites and disrupting their communication links. The cartel's early confidence quickly turned to desperation when they learned how much they had underestimated the Mexican forces. In the end, the military emerged triumphant, apprehending or murdering numerous high-ranking cartel members and collecting a large amount of cocaine and weaponry. The aftermath of the conflict dealt a serious setback to the cartel's operations in the region. It conveyed a strong message that the Mexican military should not be underestimated and that they had the capability and commitment to confront the cartels head-on. This border showdown brought to light numerous crucial facets of the continuing conflict between the Mexican government and the cartels. First, the Mexican military's rising professionalism and competence in combating organized crime. The soldiers' ability to carry out a complex operation with precision demonstrated their increasing proficiency in counterinsurgency techniques. Second, the event showed the cartel's tendency to underestimate Mexican forces. The cartels to dealing with less coordinated and poorly armed opponents, so their military skills caught them off guard. Underestimate could result in serious tactical errors as demonstrated in this particular conflict. We hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.